You're listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hello, I'm Flight Lieutenant Peter Lisney, and in this episode we look at robot car trials at RAF Brize Norton. We'll also reheat a few stories, just in case you missed them. But first, see if you can identify this noise.
3 north. 2, 6, look out. 4, 5, 6.
Find out if you're right at the end of this episode. Now, they have 4 wheels, they're green, and have artificial intelligence, but no driver. In a great example of how the Astra programme is shaping the Air Force of tomorrow, RAF Brize Norton has been trialling the use of self-driving autonomous vehicles, or robot cars. Our correspondent SAC Emma Kerwin went to investigate.
If an autonomous vehicle got blown away or got sort of struck by an aircraft, at least it's only components and technology rather than a person and their life.
We don't think about we're going to automate everything and replace people. No, it's a tiny bot that runs errands.
Using our very skilled personnel on driving duties to move items from one side of the base to the other is not a great use of your trained resource.
The Royal Air Force made the headlines last year for a new innovative project being trialled in Oxfordshire. Newspapers like The Independent and the Daily Mail reported on RAF Brize Norton testing out self-driving cars on its airbase. And radio stations in Oxfordshire, including Jack FM, covered the story too.
Across Oxfordshire and on Jack Radio Player.
Jack FM.
A self-driving car is delivering tools, equipment and supplies around RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire as part of a new trial. It's the first time autonomous vehicles have been deployed on a UK airbase by the Royal Air Force.
The project captured the public's attention, so I wanted to find out how successful it really was, what the reaction was from personnel, and whether we're going to be seeing robots at Brize Norton or any other airbases anytime soon. Squadron Leader Seston, thanks for joining me. You were instrumental in getting this project up and running. Why did you want to test out self-driving vehicles on an airbase?
Ultimately, the whole of the Royal Air Force, the issue with logistics is that last mile. So moving items from central depots to the point of need in the right place at the right time. And in order to do that today, we need large vehicles, we need personnel, there's a lot of picking and packing, there's receipt and dispatch, and it's very resource intensive. And there was a realization that we needed to move forward and leverage technology and understand how we can improve operational effectiveness and efficiency by looking at technology that exists today and technology that will exist tomorrow to capitalize on that. Using our very skilled personnel on driving duties to move items from one side of the base to the other is not a great use of your trained resource. Our people they're intelligent, they're enigmatic, they've got so much more to give, and we want to start to use them in that more professional way. So we were looking at options and what existed outside in the UK today. We were very aware of some robots that were travelling around Milton Keynes, certainly doing delivery of food and takeaways and small items. And we thought, it's a great solution, and it's one part of the solution. But we run on very large bases that are like mini cities. So we needed to find an option that was a roadworthy and quick option to get from one side of the airfield to the other in order to get those efficiencies. And that's where a bit of research, and I found William's company, the Academy of Robotics.
William, you're from the Academy of Robotics and actually created this tech called Cargo thanks for joining us on the call. Now, we've just heard about the issues of logistics in the RAF. Are other industries facing similar issues?
One of the largest problems in the world is essentially logistics. What many people don't know is you could have something moved from halfway across the world to your local depot near your house for pennies. But once it gets from your, let's say, your house to the actual, the local depot to your house, the cost goes up about 5, 6, 7 times the cost. This is called the last mile problem. It's the biggest problem in pretty much all of logistics or the world of retail. This applies to large organizations such as corporations moving things around their bases or their factories and things like that. So in this space, particularly, let's say for companies or more commercially, we realized innovation in this space is very, very specific. And while self-driving be solved by companies like Google, Uber, Tesla for the public sector, for people generally at home, who's going to solve this problem for logistics companies or the Royal Air Force or companies or organizations like that? And we thought this should be a space we should focus on because we're the most qualified to do so and we have the will and the skill to do so.
Squadron Leader Seston, what excited you about the Academy of Robotics?
William and the company, they're a UK enterprise and they design and develop everything in-house. And for us, that excites us because, you know, we're very security conscious in the Royal Air Force. We need to ensure that we partner with the right companies, and having UK-based companies involved in our future solutions is a key enabler. And where William and the Academy of Robotics really kind of pushed the boundaries forward was that their vehicle was DVLA and DVSA accredited. It was a UK road going vehicle already, and for us that was the next step.
This trial was launched during the pandemic. When did it actually go ahead?
So I think we started our initial conversation with the Royal Air Force about 18 months ago, and then during lockdown we started looking at how we could do this trial. But the actual work started a while ago because there were many considerations we needed to have before getting the car on the road, and we had to invent new technology specifically to have this vehicle on Brize Norton.
For people who haven't seen the pictures of cargo online, which have been doing the rounds, William, can you paint a picture for us about what cargo looks like?
So imagine a car that's a bit bigger than what you'd call a smart car today, or about the size of a Ford Focus-y kind of car. This car looks probably unlike anything you've ever seen. What I strongly recommend for anybody listening is go to the Google machine and type in KAR-GO. It looks kind of like an alien or a baby dragon, so people say, because we are from Wales, so we call this our baby dragon, or baby Welsh dragon. So this vehicle has got a hatch at the back, and it can drive itself up to 40, 50 miles an hour. Well, we capped it at 20 because that's the limit on the base, and 10 airside, if I'm not mistaken. So we can travel the speeds most cars do on airfields and on the road. And this alien egg or dragon-looking car will drive itself, pretty much can do anything a human can do. And if it's ever in trouble, it calls back to the command hub and asks the human to say, hey, could you please jump in the chair and help me because I'm a bit stuck? And the person can literally sit in the chair and take control for a bit, and off it goes again. This is what we've done for years. We're amongst the furthest in the space in the UK, and we've been on the road for a while, on the actual road as a street legal vehicle. So we've done the sort of the time already in getting a lot of the advancements done. But obviously airside, it's 10 miles, and on the base it's 20.
Now we're going to hear from Flying Officer Needham, who actually works in logistics at Brize Norton.
I work in base supply flight, so quite literally where we want to kind of tailor the autonomous delivery piece. So forward delivery comes into mind, obviously a high utilization of vehicles across the station. The fact that it is difficult to get from supply to the other side, so for example across an Air Force base of this size, getting from one part of the airfield to the other with the large volume of aircraft that are flying in and out, obviously makes it difficult to traverse across the station, and obviously puts a bit of a, not a drain, but certainly takes up quite a lot of time of personnel's time really, and resources of what we have available to us.
Cargo was obviously trialled in your department. What was it really like?
It's certainly resolved quite a few of the problems, like certainly the release of the personnel back into the wider Air Force, or back even into wider supply as a whole. And it would certainly reduce a lot of, I suppose, some human errors and some human factors that we could see. So like it takes away that human element and that, I suppose, risk to the personnel who would be behind the wheel of an aircraft. At least if an autonomous vehicle, or any kind of autonomous vehicle or robotics, let's say, got blown away or got sort of struck by an aircraft, at least it's only components and technology rather than a person and their life. So that would be sort of beneficial in that sense, yes.
What was the reaction from personnel?
It certainly was interesting. I think a lot of people's perception in the beginning were like, well, it can't really hold much, was the main thing. They were focused more on the capacity size of cargo rather than looking at the concept and what it can do. So that was certainly a big hurdle. But then once people actually saw it going around, it certainly made people stop and stay and go, what on earth is that? Like, what does it do? And then people actually sort of gravitated towards it when they saw it coming out of the back of the mobile command hub, and they're like, hang on, that goes in the back of that coach or that command hub rather than just sitting on the roads. And it took a little while. It certainly took, I suppose, the whole trial, the whole 5 days, for personnel to actually sort of get on board, I suppose.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge of running this trial?
Probably the biggest one is just the security hurdles. Obviously, this has never been done before, so it's just getting the accreditation for this trial. And one of the other ones is obviously operating it on the airfield. So there's no real like set policies and procedures for operating autonomous vehicles on the airfield. So obviously that's a big challenge, whether it can recognise aircraft coming in and departing as well, and recognising signals from the air traffic control tower as well would certainly be a big issue.
Okay, so cargo's helping personnel, that's the aim of it. But could these robots result in people actually losing their jobs?
The technology we make, for us, it's we like to consider it as tech that's there to be there when it is needed and out of the way when it is not. So we don't think about we're going to automate everything and replace people. No, it's a tiny bot that runs errands, and that's it. And so the implementation that they were speaking about at the Royal Air Force, about supplementing and getting these trained professionals to be more free and have the tiny robot or the big robot, the robot, run errands here and there. That kind of connects with us a lot. The tech that's there when required, out of the way it isn't. And so that was the first protocol, but it was expected that these sort of organizations would like to reach out to us, because it's not unique to the RAF, remember, it's logistics across the board, across all large organizations.
We're very aware that we have systems that do not currently link in with this type of technology. And we do have a lot of what I would call legacy systems that we are attempting to improve alongside doing proofs of concept like this. But we have to move forward, and we have to show that we can link in with companies and that we can use this technology, because I have no doubt in 5 years, in 10 years, this will be the norm. This will be a normal part of our lives. We will be embracing artificial intelligence, machine learning. Our people are part of this technological revolution and a sustainability revolution. And this is where something like cargo just gives us so much, because it is a green vehicle. It's an electric vehicle. It's an artificial intelligence vehicle. It's there to solve problems that ultimately us as the human workforce within the Air Force, don't need to do that solving of problems, because we can get the computer to do it. And B, it actually doesn't utilize us in the best way. So yeah, it's a proof of concept, but it's one step that we hope to capitalize on, and to work alongside the Academy of Robotics in the future to look at different types of tests and trials.
How successful has this trial been? And are there plans to have cargo at RAF Brize Norton full-time now?
So no plans at the moment to have it full-time, but the success has been just the amazing media push throughout the Air Force, but much wider. All of the national news outlets took this story and ran it. We found ourselves from being on TV to radio to being in the papers as well. So it does what it does is it gives us that further credibility that we are innovating, we are moving forward with the times. We're not the Air Force of 100 years ago. And I think for William and the Academy of Robotics, it's showcasing to the UK public and to the Royal Air Force whole force personnel, this is real technology that exists today. It is self-driving, autonomous, green, electric vehicles that have the ability to work today, and we have to embrace those.
William, how successful do you think the trial was, and what challenges were there in your opinion?
I think for us, we would consider the trial a success because of three things in particular. I think the first is we were faced with a new type of challenge for AVs. The first being, let's say, we were working on a Royal Air Force base, and we wanted to make sure that this vehicle would do this in a safe way, whilst considering some of the security concerns that would come with working, be it at Brize Norton or anywhere within the defence industry. And so some of the things we did is we created new ways in which this car could work, such as the ability to forget. So typically to have a car driving itself, it remembers or memorizes the road or the route, and then with this route, it then does it again from memory. But you don't want to store this data for it to potentially be intercepted by dubious entities. These things are concerns, right? So we then made a way for the car to literally just forget. So it does what it needs to do and then forget, and ways for it to kind of to blinker itself so it only sees what it needs to see. So you could perhaps have one of these cars drive and open its brain up and you see nothing but the road it traveled on, and that's it. And so these were new innovations which we made specifically to be able to be more secure. And I think the greatest sort of achievement for us was working with RAF personnel, which for us was proof that you don't need a PhD in computer science to get to the level we're getting at. We will be supplying the RAF with an exit report that it breaks down all this soon. Yeah, no, for us it was very positive, and it was great working with the RAF.
It's exciting just having this type of technology on base, and noting that the Military Aviation Authority and the Civil Aviation Authority, they're a bit further back at the moment, and they haven't really embraced that this technology is coming. So we were working with them to start to look at how they can drive their policy forward and be able to integrate this type of technology, be it surface like cargo, but even air delivered autonomous vehicles where they are moving around airfields and bases to deliver items and to provide an effect. There's some great projects going forward, and we got the Army to come down and have a look at what we were doing at Brize Norton. They've got a great battlefield autonomous delivery, last mile delivery project that's ongoing. So we're kind of touching base with them and ensuring that they understand what we're doing, and they're really excited to see the work that the Academy of Robotics were doing with the Air Force, and taking on board some of those safety and risk elements that we had done the hard work on, and moving them forward with their project. And up at RAF Leeming, and I think just to tie very nicely into what we're doing here, RAF Leeming are a sustainability hub, hoping to be the first carbon net zero base, working with academia to look at technologies that are new and innovative, that do reduce our carbon footprint, but also sequester some of that carbon as well. So there's some great projects going on, Emma.
Thanks, sir. Well, it seems like the cargo trial was pretty successful. The aim was to show it could help, and it did exactly that. maybe we will be seeing these self-driving vehicles working on RAF bases in the future so that personnel can focus on more important tasks. Thanks for listening.
This is Reheat on Inside Air. I'm SAC Victoria Andrews. The RAF's last remaining search and rescue squadron are marking 50 years of non-stop flying operations from RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, a feat not replicated by any other flying squadron. 84 Squadron are the most senior helicopter squadron in the Royal Air Force and marked the milestone with a parade and a 3-ship flypast over Cyprus. A team of RAF pilots have finished second in a gruelling 3,000-mile ocean rowing challenge, raising over £33,000 for Starlight Children's Foundation in the process. Dubbed the Atlantic Flyers, the team of Wing Commander Phil Holcroft, Squadron Leader Sonny Rowe, Flight Lieutenant Simon Berry and Flight Lieutenant Chris Carrington-Smith took 36 days to complete the tough sailing test. They worked in pairs for 2-hour shifts, burned over 5,000 calories each day, saw waves of up to 20 feet and experienced stomach cramps, sleep deprivation, hallucinations, salt sores and hunger. The challenge was inspired by Wing Commander Holcroft's daughter Isla, who was diagnosed with leukemia in 2014.
Starlight is an incredible charity. They helped Isla and our family during the darkest moments. In this row, we've had some pretty dark moments, but we're pouring our heart and soul into this. We know all the money raised will go to families and children who need the help of Starlight.
The RAF Air and Space Power 2021 journal has been released, with this year's focus being Future Force 2040. The journal highlights how the Royal Air Force is investing in its future by strengthening its capabilities and technology. This includes continued development of the Tempest combat aircraft, UK Space Command and aircrew training, as well as collaborating with other defence partners. Read the journal on RAF social platforms. And finally to sport, where it's been announced that RAF Regiment Gunner Lance Corporal Shanwayne Stevens will be heading to the Winter Olympics in Beijing. He'll captain the Jamaican bobsled team at the Games, which begin on February 4th. That's Reheat on Inside Air.
I'm SAC Simon Ross with this episode's Name That Noise.
Read on. 2, 6, look out. 4, 5, 6.
That was the sound of a parachute drop from the BBMF Dakota. As part of D-Day anniversary events in both 2014 and 2019, the BBMF recreated a parachute drop over Normandy with the 16th Air Assault Brigade. They mirrored one of the 139 Dakotas involved in dropping parachute brigades in June of 1944, carrying paratroopers to the drop zone at Ranville in 2014, the first French village liberated on D-Day, and Sannerville in 2019. And parachute drops continue to play their part in the Royal Air Force today. The Parachute Training Squadron delivers parachute training to all 3 services, whether it's your first parachute activity, continuation training, or learning advanced parachute insertion techniques.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review and subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.